Alright everyone, it's time for Occult Literature, video number 413, Botanic Materia Medica. Link in the description to my edition of this work on Amazon. It's 99 pages, so it's an intermediate read. It's also going to be pinned at the top. If you're watching the video on YouTube, the link is there for, I don't know, I've never used YouTube on mobile, so for mobile users it may be easier. I'm not 100% sure. So yes, 99-page work. It's effectively, most of it is a categorical list of different species. Like Ipecac and Ipecacuana and Lobelia. Now, there's a big section on Lobelia. It was printed in 1850, so I'll speak briefly about that as well. And other things, including some culinary materials that have medicinal purposes. Now, this comes from the dawn of the organic medicine era. So you've got a transference. You're getting past the use of arsenic and mercury and things like that like they did in past centuries, which killed more patients than it ever helped. That's been replaced now by various competing factions that were more averse to using strong doses of those cures, so-called. So you have the homeopaths diluting everything. That's helpful. Taking less mercury or less arsenic probably was helpful. You have the Thomsonian school, which is mainly Lobelia related. It starts literally a moral panic. Again, I'll explain that in brief. And then you have other various groups. You have people experimenting with electricity in medicine, etc. Different chemicals than were used before. This particular work doesn't delve in any particular school, but it is very helpful. It doesn't simply list the species and tell you, in short, the purpose of their use, although it doesn't give dosages. It actually has an entire categorical section with abbreviations for different usages of medicine. So, for instance, SDI for stimulant, or FEB for febrifuge, a worm destroyer, basically. You've got a lot of antiquated terminology. For instance, if I ask you what a refrigerant is, you probably think it's a chemical in a refrigerator. Back then, they meant any sort of medical compound that tended to cool the body. So it dispelled body heat, it lowered the core temperature. So a fever reducer, basically. Some of which worked, some of which, the jury's still out. I would not recommend using some of the cures and herbals listings that are in this work because they could be toxic. For instance, Datura stramonium is typically no longer used as medicine, not without good reason, although some of them are still commonly used, chamomile and things like that. Fascinating work. It also details the difference between tinctures slash compounds and things like that towards the end, and talks a little bit. There's one short section right at the end about when to gather medicine, like the time of day matters, the weather conditions matter, something that is kind of a no-brainer, but some people just starting out wouldn't actually know at all. Interesting work, quite a laundry list of species. They're fairly packed in. The entries themselves are fairly short. I think it's 200 or thereabouts species. I find it fascinating. If you're into herbal medicine, this would be a pretty good companion, especially with its abbreviations. That makes reference much easier, much quicker, and more effective. And so you don't even need to read the sections necessarily, although you would definitely need to standardize the doses, something helpfully they had learned how to do by this time, because they understood that no two plants picked in different locations necessarily have exactly the same amount of compounds in them. Well, that's helpful for when you're making your infusion. They learned about filtration techniques, etc. They had better equipment than they had in the 1700s. So again, link in the description. Link pinned at the top if you're watching this video on YouTube as well. Strongly recommended, 99 pages, intermediate read. Very, very good overall herbal work. And it doesn't delve, other than the Lobelia debate, which it goes into extensive, very extensive, like fucking, I think, 3 pages of debate on. Other than that, it's just a straightforward encyclopedic work. That's about all. Peace out.